the public hearing on the 6th?
I did.
Those?
You're fine.
Someone want to make a motion?
So moved.
Brian?
I'll second you.
Okay, wait a minute. Night, you guys are getting out of order here. So who's that? Who made that motion?
Ladies first.
All right. Second is for Brian. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, aye, aye. We're gonna say aye for Chris, even though he
Yeah,
didn't.
go ahead.
All right.
No, go ahead. It's,
All right, 4-0. So, one of the first things that we need to talk about, real briefly, was that we have to make sure that the recall bylaw is all set and ready to roll. We're gonna get that to Chris, so he can get it typed up. And, does that have to go to the town council first, Chris, or?
it'll go to town council to be included on the next town meeting warrant.
Okay. So all of the changes that I can bring it up if you'd like to see it. If not, we've read through it a million times. All the changes from the last few meetings have been updated. The only thing that I would have to do is to take out the highlights and the things like that, that just kind of denoted it as something that was outside of the bylaws as we were going to submit them. So does anybody have anything they want to add or change to those? I think we pretty much beat those up pretty well. All those other things have been, the group is good with it. I'll just,
I have to go answer that. I'll be back.
okay. He's a one-man show today. I'm pretty sure it's where we need it to be, but if anybody has any questions or anything like that before we send it forward, if Brian and Virginia, if you guys are good with it,
Yep.
I'll get it to Chris. Good? Okay. That works. What was that?
I said it's a lot of reading.
Yeah, it is. I'm kind of waiting for Chris to come back to discuss the stretch code because he had brought forward just his suggestion on it, and I figured I'd let him talk about that.
Yeah, good idea.
While we're here, one of the things that we probably could talk about real briefly is somebody had mentioned a public forum, doing a public forum and before the town meeting. In other words, just the opportunity for people to ask questions if they have any. I don't have a problem doing it. I kind of had figured that this is what these last public hearings were all about. However, you know, like a lot of things in any town, you know, people are going to show up at town meeting with questions. So if we can get in front of any of those questions now, that might make the whole process a lot easier on us and town meeting.
How is a public forum different than a Zoom meeting such as this? Unless by the public forum you meant going on whatever that channel is, GCAM.
The way that I took the meeting was that they wanted us to be available for questioning about if anybody had questions. I think, and I don't want to give credit to anyone specific, but I know Jay Joyce had mentioned doing it for something, the planning board maybe, I'm not exactly sure, and that had worked out really well, and that when they went to the town meeting or special town meeting, whatever it was, with whatever issue it was that they were dealing with, it kind of went through pretty easily. You know,
But how do they do it?
I don't know. That's not true. I believe what they did was they showed up like we did for the public hearings, and you know, it was just like open discussion with anybody that had any questions. That's my understanding of how they did it. Maybe Chris has some insight to that. It's a bit redundant to me. However, I'm not opposed to anything that limits the amount of time we have to talk about it at that town meeting. So,
How many people are you allowed to have in a room now?
what's that?
If you have it like at town hall, how many people are you allowed to have? Is there any limit?
Do that. We won't do it that way. It'll have to be Zoom related.
Yeah,
Because
that's Zoom, right, yeah.
I don't.
All right. Al, are they thinking something like the annual town meeting outside and doing it before that?
They didn't give any guidance to that. They just suggested a public hearing. And you know, the thing is, I think you could, I think you could argue both sides of the coin here. You know, some people will come to it if it's online, you know, virtual, and some people will come if it's in person. But some of the people that are willing to do it online are probably not willing to do it in person, and vice versa. So, Chris, we were just talking about the suggestion, I think that came from the select board, about having a public forum. And we were about to get into talking about what that looked like. And then Virginia had a question of, you know, what were they expecting the difference between a public hearing, as we've just done 3 of them, and a public forum?
A forum is a mini version of a hearing. What you'll do is you'll just basically sit there, go through and do all the same explanation, and let the GCAM put it out there. And if GCAM wants to allow people to call in with questions, they can do that. That'll be up to how you decide to do that with GCAM.
So
basically, all the public forum was when Jay was proposing the water line. Before we went to town meeting, he held a couple meetings down here in the senior center, where we set up the room. Anybody who wanted to come came, and he just talked about what the proposed line was, and that's all he did.
Okay.
It's almost like a hearing, a mini hearing, but there's no votes being taken. Do you approve it? Do you not approve it? It's just getting information out. This is what it is. Any questions? No. Okay, we move forward, and then we schedule for town meeting and just continue on.
But now,
Okay.
instead of having it indoors, you have it via GCAM. Is that it?
Yeah, you're just gonna do it remotely. Yeah.
Like a remote, yeah, okay.
So if I understand, Chris, we would basically just be packaging the entirety of the 3 public hearings into an abbreviated,
Yes.
another hearing, another virtual hearing.
Yes. Basically, yeah. That's all you're gonna do.
Okay. I have no problem with that. I think that's going to be a long hearing. But we can Cliff Notes version it, and yeah, I mean, if that's what the select board wants us to do, we can do it. It just seems somewhat redundant with the 3 public hearings that we had, that were, you know, relatively in depth, where this public hearing probably won't be as in depth, but I guess it does give the residents one more time to hear the information or ask questions if they have.
Because if they've watched your 3 hearings already, they may have come up with some questions. It gives them one last shot that, hey, here's a public forum. You're gonna, like you said, you're gonna do a really big skeletal presentation of what you're changing. You're not gonna go in like you did with the selectmen. You just talk about each section. This is the change, the same change. That's it.
Okay. So during those public forums, was it basically one-sided, or were they expecting there to be questions allowed? That's where I think that things could be very lengthy.
There wasn't that, well, Jay, you know how Jay is. And the problem with Jay is sometimes he gets real wordy, so they can get long. I think you give your succinct answer. We don't get into a big debate. They ask a question. Yes, that was discussed. This is what it is. This is what was decided. And you move forward. Because it's all going to come down, we're going to have the same discussion at town meeting. From hell or high water. I don't care what you say.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
You're going to be people who are just going to go to town meeting and ask their questions there. No matter how many times you give them an opportunity, they're not going to turn around and try and be proactive and get the questions answered before town meeting.
Yeah. So Alex is asking if do we have any questions for Alex from GCAM? Sorry, he just sent something in the chat.
Well, does he see a way of running the format for the form?
You know what? I'm gonna have him hop on real quick. We'll wait for him, but yeah, I think that I'm you know, my personal opinion is I'm totally in favor of doing the public hearing. Sorry, the public forum. I think what we need to do though is move. At some point, we have to move this forward, and this has to be, unless somehow something comes up that's a fatal flaw in what we've done, we need to move it forward, because we can always. Hi, Alex. Give us 1 second. We'll, if not, we'll always be in the edit mode. And we've got to get out of that. So right now, I think we need to decide, this is our plan, this is what we're moving forward with. And certainly we don't expect everybody to agree with it, but short of getting it changed at town meeting. So if someone says to us, hey, you have a fatal, you're saying one thing here and another there, that obviously needs to be fixed. That's something that I think we should fix. However, I think the time for the public to come forward and say, hey, have you thought about this for a bylaw change, or for you? Have you thought about that? We can't do that anymore. We've got to stop. And I think we need to go into that public hearing knowing that we are willing to fix any fatal flaws that are discovered, but we're not willing to make, changes based on what people want and what people think. We'll never move forward if we don't do that. And, that I think we have to have that mentality.
You wouldn't be able to do that anyways, because you've already held your hearings on the proposed bylaw changes. You would have to go through in front of the selectmen to introduce any other change that you're doing over and above.
Yeah, and
Because the selectmen have approved the bylaws as you presented them to them as part of that bylaw hearing. So you can't go through and accept any more changes or additions or deletions or any of that type of stuff without going in front of the selectmen for another hearing.
Having said that, which is actually a very good point, Chris, as far as I know, they haven't approved them yet. Would it make sense to get these to the select board, have them approve them, and then do the public hearing?
Yeah, I would do it that way.
That makes sense to me, because now we're just saying this is what's been approved and this is what's going forward, not asking for opinion about what you think should change, because it can't at that point. That makes sense.
What
to
I
me.
would do, if you can get it to me, Al, I'll put it on the docket for Monday night.
Yep, you'll have it for Monday. There's no doubt. Yep. Brian, Virginia, you folks good with that?
I'm in.
That makes sense.
Okay, all right, Chris, you'll have it for Monday. As long as the select board approves it, then we'll move forward with that public hearing after that. I'm open to whatever dates. What about any dates? How far out, Chris? Does that public forum have like it's not mandated, right? So we can do it, right?
No, you can do it whenever you want to do it.
All right, let's see. What do people's schedules look like? So if they approve it, say Monday 19th, what if we did it a couple weeks later, 2-3 weeks later? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Wednesday, November 4th?
We got
We have personnel board.
Okay. All right, let me see what I got here. What about election day is the 3rd, right? All right. What
Well, you'll
about,
be busy then, Al, because, there's going to be a lot of riots when Trump gets back in.
we're not even gonna joke about that. Either way. About Thursday the 5th.
Skills.
Thursday the 5th?
Yep.
I can't do it the 5th.
Is
Okay.
that good for Alex? No, you can't do it,
What
Virginia?
What time would it be?
5:30, something like that?
Oh,
Five.
okay, yeah. If in the evening I can.
So Alex,
That
would
makes
you
sense.
be available on November 5th about 5:30?
Absolutely, yep.
Ryan?
Will it be in person or not in person?
Virtual.
It'll be virtual? Okay.
Zoom only.
Zoom only? We could do Zoom webinar, and we could do what the school committee does.
Okay.
Okay.
So that'll still be set up by Chris, and then you'll just kind of do whatever you do, Alex, on your end?
Well, we have the Zoom account, so I'll set everything up. You just give me the information, and I'll give you our information, and we'll be good to go.
So what time do you want to do, Al? 5 or 5:30?
Well, before we go there, is there any way we can do it with Chris setting it up? And I say that only because I find GoToMeeting much easier to share my screen and still see everybody else. If that can't happen, I'll make it work with however Alex sets it up. But it would be much easier and productive from my end to be able to just use what I'm comfortable with.
We could look into that. The thing
Well,
is,
I think you can make him a presenter, right?
No,
Alex?
no problem. I mean, all I gotta do is make a co-host or let everyone, all the panelists, screen share, and that's fine. It's just a setting.
Yeah, well, I'll ask you this then, Alex, if you could set up something like a dummy situation ahead of that so I can get used to it. I don't want to be, 5 minutes before the public hearing, getting comfortable with it. The thing that I like about GoToMeeting, not to talk about what Al Wishart likes too much, but I can see everybody. So I can see my screen that I'm presenting from, and I can see all of you as well. And I don't know if Zoom is the same way. I know that the Google Classroom is not, and it's a pain. In fact, that you have to set up a whole nother like screen to actually see what's going on, especially if somebody's looking to ask questions.
Right. So yes and no. If you can see people, you can only see some people. If you go to the Zoom webinar, you can see only the panelists and no one else.
See, well, that's problematic from the perspective of, well, first of all, let's be real. We're not going to have 100 people. But if we get past, if we can't see the people who, if we can't see people who want to ask questions, I guess they can put it in chat, but not everybody's going to be able to do that. So.
Right. Okay. If you, how about this? Do you want to set something up, Al, where we can do like a mock meeting and you can play around with it a little bit, see if you like it?
Yeah, that's what I'm asking for, exactly. That way I can just kind of get used to it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, well, Alex, why don't we plan on that day, and between now and then, you and I will just touch base here, on the side offline and figure out the play date.
Okay. Yep.
Sound good?
Totally.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You're more welcome.
All right. All right, so we got that date, Thursday, November 5th at 5:30, and Alex and I will work out the technical logistics stuff. So the only other thing, so Chris, while you were gone, we basically said the recall bylaw is good to go. I'll take out the highlights and all the other nonsense that was in there, kind of delineating it, and I'll get that to you probably tomorrow.
Okay.
So the only other thing left was the stretch code. And the suggestion, to my recollection, was that they were saying, or Jay had said, that we should make sure that it's the most recent update to, to whatever the stretch code was. In other words, our bylaws referred to the most current version, or to add some wording to that effect. Chris, I know you had read through it. What were your thoughts?
I had sent that email out to everybody. I don't know if everybody remember reading it.
Yep.
Section 1 only created the baseline for the stretch code using the 2009 standard that was in effect as of July 1 of 2010. That was to set the baseline for the creation of the stretch code. But when you go and look at section 5 under that, it talks
If you want, I
about,
can share that.
yeah, if you could, yeah.
Hold on one second. Sorry, Chris, there you go.
Go down to section 5. Including any amendments or modifications. It talks about 780 CMR, Appendix 115 AA, which is the stretch code. And it says, including any amendments or modifications, which anytime it gets revised is a modification or amendment to it. So I think we're covered by the way the language is reading as of this point in time.
Would
What do
agree.
you guys?
Yeah,
I agree with that. I agree. I think that's why that sits, that is in there. I agree. Virginia?
Yeah, no,
Hey.
definitely.
Okay. So if we're all in agreement, then we really don't need to change this, right? I think it covers it. We should be at the current, current CMR, whatever that is, whatever version that is, whatever amendments they've made.
Chris, have you shown that or talked about that with Jay so he doesn't bring it up again?
I sent it to you guys, and I think I sent it to the board members at the same time. As part of
Because when
that
you sent
email.
it, it was, yeah, it was obvious when you sent it that that's what it said, but make sure that the selectmen have it so they don't bring it up again at the forum.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean he won't bring it up.
Yeah,
Hey, look at, they can do what they want with it once we put it on their desk. But I
yeah, no,
agree.
that covers.
I think it's covered. I don't know that changing the
No.
word makes it any better, so. No, that makes sense to me. Now, if I can figure out how to stop sharing this. Let's, anyway.
No,
You
you
guys
gotta go up under your settings and tell it unshare your camera, not to share the screen. So don't worry about it. We're fine.
Okay, for the most part, that's pretty much it. So literally, Chris is gonna get this in front of the select board for Monday. There's not much else we have to do, really. The stuff for the public hearings and or for the public forum is basically already together. I may package it a little bit differently to make it a little quicker. But other than getting it in front of the select board, getting that approved, getting the recall bylaw over to Chris, I think we're in good shape. So I think maybe what we should do is
just go
that,
out and drink.
what's that?
Go out and drink.
Yeah. I think it probably makes sense for us to take a vote to send what we have, the current version of what we have forward to the select board as our final. We made so many changes along the years that I think maybe it makes sense to take a vote to make sure that this is the version. Does that make sense to you?
Lynn? Lynn?
I was gonna let Virginia make a motion too.
Yeah, I know,
Oh,
right?
I'm sorry.
No worries.
Make the motion, Virginia. I'll second you.
I move that we send what we have talked about today to the selectmen for approval.
I'll
All right.
second.
Virginia made the motion for these bylaws to go forward as they are. Brian seconded that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
4-0. Excellent. I think we're good. Does anybody else have anything they want to talk about?
Chris, yeah, do you remember I said last week that there was something that I don't know if I was looking at the most recent, but it was something to do with the order of the Roman numerals, that you had changed it with your mouth, but it didn't seem to be changed on the document. Do you remember?
I do. I remember you mentioned that, and I will go back and I'll try to remember exactly where that was.
I think it was like 14 and 19. It was in there.
Say again?
I think it was somewhere from the 13th to the 19th. It's in there that the Roman numerals were wrong, but I wanted to make sure that I had the right final version that I was looking at too,
I thought at the time we figured out that you were looking at an older version, but I'll double check that.
That was the time before.
Okay, I'll double check it. I'll double check that. And I got to go through it one more time to make sure that everything's squared away anyway, that the numbers haven't changed. I don't think that they have. I've kept up with it pretty well, but I'll double check that, Virginia.
Okay. I can look through what I have too, which I printed out and tell you what I thought it was. And
That would be great. If you could email me that or even text me, that'd be
Yeah.
perfect.
I have the final one that I thought was the final one printed out, so.
Yeah, if you could send me that, that would save me some time. That'd be great.
Well,
All right, folks. Anybody else got anything else? All right. Well, hopefully this is the last time I say this is the last meeting. You guys, I've had a lot of fun. I've been on quite a few committees. I would say that this is by far the longest one. And the most fun. I've had a blast with it. You guys are awesome. I've learned so much about, the town government and the history of it and how we got to where we are. It's been a great experience for me. So, and I appreciate all your time and your hard work. And hopefully that'll be paying off here at a town meeting coming soon to you. So thank you very much. You guys are awesome. And that's it. So somebody want to make a,
Good job, Al. Very good job.
thanks,
Yep.
Brian.
man,
Anybody want to make a motion?
I move
Come on.
that I'll run for selectman someday.
I don't know about that.
oh, I'd second that motion.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Hey, let's finish with the bylaw review committee first. How's that sound? Let's
I
get
move
this.
we adjourn.
Second.
Hey. Brian, and second. Hey, you guys, all in favor? Aye.
Right.